All right, I'm here with Jay Bybee, the program director for Gameday for Heroes in Auburn, Alabama. Jay, thanks for being with me.
Hi, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate what you guys are doing. I'd love for you just to tell us a bit about Gameday for Heroes, what you all do, and the mission behind it.
Yeah, so the mission, brief history, 2009, we had a couple of people in Auburn, Alabama that just wanted to give back to the military community. And so they decided to offer their season ticket seats for Auburn University's football games to a couple of Army vets that had come back from Iraq. This was post 9/11 timeframe, obviously. And the vets went and they watched the game. They had a good time and they enjoyed the atmosphere of being around, 87,451 of your closest friends. And they enjoyed it. And it kind of became an annual tradition where those two individuals, Jana and Mike Tarleton, would give a couple of their seats to some vets. And then over a span of about 10 years, they got their LLC. They became a nonprofit, fully operational nonprofit organization. And they grew from those two seats at Auburn to about any given point in time throughout the football season. We give away now close to 15,000, 20,000 tickets to colleges and universities all over the country. And that includes veterans and their families. So that is our primary mission. Our primary mission is to give veterans and their families a space and an opportunity to enjoy being in those sporting events, being outdoors, being around people, being around like-minded individuals, and maybe individuals who have gone through the same sort of camaraderie and suffering as somebody else. Yeah. And that's kind of where we started. And now what we've done, in addition to that primary mission, what we noticed is that as our vets were going to these games and getting involved in these loud, rambunctious, flashing lights, fireworks, all the things that you would think that a vet wouldn't be a big fan of, when they were surrounded by other veterans, they started to become used to it. And they were enjoying it more and more, and they were staying for the whole game versus just a quarter or two quarters. So we thought to ourselves, hey, maybe we're on track here for something that will assist with PTSD, anxiety, depression, that sort of stuff that is often associated with veterans in our, in the community here. And so we started with a couple of counselors that were helping us out with some PTSD stuff and some anxiety stuff. And that grew into where we are now, which is a bevy of services and referral agencies for our veterans and our families to come to us, enjoy these games. We throw these great big hospitality tailgates where we get to know our veterans, we get to know our families, what they need, what they could use assistance with, whether they use it or not. And we have resources to help transitioning veterans who were in anywhere from 2 years to 32 years. We offer everything from financial readiness to PTSD counseling, to executive coaching for the E9s and 06s, 07s that get out. They don't know what to do with their lives, or they don't know how to separate, who they are from who they were. Just tons and tons of resources that we don't provide them all. Some of them we do. We do some leadership coaching and stuff like that. But what we do is we pair them with previously screened nonprofit resources that have a like-minded mission with us. And we get them that assistance that they need. We get them that assistance that they can use. And it's usually either free or very, very cheap kind of sliding scale services that our partners offer for our veterans and their families to help them out. So it's a mouthful, but we send people to college football games and we help them transition into the civilian world and try to get them back on path with a purpose.
Yeah, golly, that is fantastic. What a cool project. And it all started with a couple of people giving away some ball game tickets.
That was it.
That's really cool. Now, is it all veteran run or all you? I know it's volunteer. Gameday for Heroes, all volunteer.
Yeah, so our organization is 100% volunteer ran. There's about 7 of us that are constantly doing anything. Apparently something very much so excited. My doggy, he just came running in here. There's about 7 of us that run basically everything. We're about 50-50. About 50% are veterans and about 50% are not. The board is about split that way as well. Go lay down, dog. I'm going to fight with my dog here. He's about to be in my lap. I'll hold his head down. Go lay down. And the board is split about like that as well. We have a retired 4-star general on our board who's hip deep in Auburn as a personnel at Auburn University. We have previous coaches from Auburn athletics on our board. And we have a couple of retired military members. And then our volunteer pool is probably about 80% military and about 20% civilian. So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're running 7 people for 6 or 7 months, and sometimes we're running 30 or 40 for 8 weeks. It just kind of depends on what we're doing, what we got going on.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. So now you're based. Gameday for Heroes is based out of Auburn, Alabama. You're actually in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yes. So our home, if you will, is definitely Auburn, Alabama, Auburn University. They have been our biggest supporters since day one. A wonderful relationship with the president and the athletic directors going back to 2010, 2011 timeframe when we started getting tickets from the university. And they're not the only university we get tickets from. We have grown a lot. We get tickets from several other universities, not just here in Alabama, but around the nation, primarily here in the Southeast. But we get some onesie-twosies from the University of Washington, place like that. Yeah. But we do a lot of our fundraising here in Montgomery. We do a lot of our services here in Montgomery. We have a huge veteran pool here, both working and purposeful veterans and not working and maybe some of the veterans that need some assistance. So this is it's a good place for us to be. And we're only 35 minutes up the road from Auburn, where really the bulk of our magic happens.
Yeah, very cool. So you said you're kind of all across the country. The primary service area, I guess, if you want to call it, for veterans is in Alabama. Is that right?
It is. Our primary service area is really Georgia, Alabama, and up through Louisiana. So it's really that southeastern region right through there. We do a little bit in Mississippi, not a lot, but we do a lot with LSU out in Baton Rouge. And then all the way out now to last year, we started working with the University of South Carolina. And it looks like we're going to get some Clemson tickets as well in the near future. But I would say probably 70% of our clientele, members of Gameday for Heroes, are right here in Alabama.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So if there are veterans who end up seeing this video on the website and want to connect with Gameday for Heroes, if they're outside of the state of Alabama, does it benefit them at all to contact you? Do you have tickets available?
Absolutely. Now we are limited in some of the resources that we have and some of the services that we have based on state laws, state licensing, that sort of thing. Like for instance, our marriage counselor, she's licensed here in Alabama, right. So she can't work with maybe a couple in Georgia or Florida. We are expanding those, but we do have a lot of services that we either offer or we refer to that are nationwide, such as we work with still serving veterans based out of Huntsville. They do a lot of resume writing, job placement, employment assistance for veterans, and they do that nationwide. They're a huge corporation. They've been working for, not a corporation, they're a nonprofit, but they're a very big nonprofit. They've been working years and years for our veterans. We partnered with them last year. So we send them people all the time. Our executive coaches are all licensed through IECL or the NCL, so they can coach all over the country as well. Our financial readiness managers are licensed throughout the country, so they can assist. There are plenty of resources for those who are outside of the state of Alabama, but most of our medical resources, whether they're mental health or physical health, are licensed here in the state of Alabama. We have one therapist who's licensed in Virginia. So if they're in Virginia, we can help them out.
Yeah,
but most of our licenses are here in Alabama.
Yeah, very good. So just curious, so y'all sort of discovered that by going to games, it's almost like, the way you described it almost feels like a bit of exposure therapy. Like you're in a crowd, loud noises, bright lights, all the stimulation. And after game, people seem to be a little bit more comfortable with it because they're with people. Right.
Yeah. So what we realized, and it was kind of accidental, was that, and I'll pick on our CEO because I love his story, and he knows that I pick on him all the time, so I'm comfortable doing it. But our CEO, Todd, was a medically retired Army captain who was military police, saw some time downrange, suffered from PTSD pretty severely when he first got out of the Army. And he was one of the ones that started going to these games. And he's an Auburn grad as well. I think he went to the business school there, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he was 100%, having issues getting out in public, being around the loud noises, right? The large groups of people, anything that could creep up on a veteran and kind of spook them when they're not expecting it. And what a lot of people don't realize about a lot of trauma sufferers, I don't want to say most, but a lot of trauma sufferers, is if they know that there's a trigger around the corner, it's a lot easier to mitigate, and it's a lot easier to, have a correct or appropriate response than if something sneaks up on you.
Right.
So Todd found out that, hey, going to these games, I expect it to be loud. I expect it to be noisy. You got 87,000 people there. They shoot off fireworks at the beginning. They sometimes shoot off fireworks when they score a touchdown. So there's things that you expect that are things that normally would be triggers, but you're expecting them. And not only are you expecting them, but, you're in a oftentimes nosebleed section of the stadium, but you're surrounded by 40 or 50 other veterans. Right. Who, most of which have similar sort of traumatic experiences or trauma that they're dealing with. As we all know, not everybody's ability to process trauma is the same, right? And we try to respect that, and we understand that. But we also know that if somebody's having those experiences and they're surrounded by 40 or 50 veterans, we have the people on site to grab them and get them where they need to be, get them to a safe location, get them to the help that they need. A lot of times we even have a counselor on site to help them out. Not always, but every now and then we do. And we have campers that are in place, or RVs, right, that are in place there at the university, to where if somebody needs to get out of those environments and needs to just get to that dark, quiet place for a little bit, they can.
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic.
And like I said, there is. I want to be perfectly clear. Right now, we have zero medical studies or proof that it's effective. All we have is anecdotal stuff, right? But we have veterans coming back to us saying, "Hey, I'm a PTSD sufferer, and this is the only place I can go that's loud and crowded and rambunctious, because it is a controlled environment."
And I think that's the thing is with like you said, everyone processes and handles their trauma experience differently, but something I know is I've worked with people with trauma for years, and something I know is that surprises are no good. The element of surprise doesn't feel safe, and if you know what to expect, it may still be a bit triggering or a bit overstimulating in a way. But if you know what to expect, it's going to be a very different experience than if that comes out of nowhere, and kind of living out of trauma, your brain's in reactive mode all the time. And so if you're having to react to a surprise, it's catching you off guard. It's a very different situation than if you're like, hey, I know there's going to be fireworks. I know there's going to be 87,000 people. I know there's going to be a lot of screaming and loud music, and you can kind of go in prepared, and that's a different situation. But
that's absolutely true. And my wife and I, just a real quick story, we were in San Jose, Puerto Rico last year. We like to go down there. It's a gorgeous area. And it was real quiet, and we were walking down the streets and having a good time. And as we were walking through the old San Juan area, a Disney cruise ship docked and opened and unleashed thousands of people and kids. And we turned a corner, go down this alley that's usually a very quiet alley of San Jose. There's a wonderful cigar lounge on it that I like to go to. And we went from the quietest street in the city to the busiest street in the city like that. And it took me hours to be able to refocus myself and kind of figure out where I was. I can be smack in the middle of an Auburn game or Montgomery Biscuits game, which my wife and I just went to a game the other weekend here, which is our minor league ball club. And it's different because, again, like you said, you're expecting a lot of those surroundings. You're expecting those noises. And what we do is we take it that step further. And, when we're doing our tailgates, there are what we call our hospitality tailgates there at the universities. We're talking about our experiences. Myself, Todd, some of the other veterans, right? We're discussing some of our experiences. So people know, like, hey, this isn't a me thing. Like, I'm not alone here. There's 10, 20, 30, 40 other people around me that are experiencing something similar. And while we do focus a lot on the PTSD and that sort of trauma, what we really focus on is, like, transitioning is hard. It sucks.
Yeah.
You go from a very defined path and purpose to none. Mm-hmm. You got to figure out what that looks like, and and to know that there's all these other veterans around you going through the same thing. It may not be, maybe my issue is anxiety or adjustment, right? But the guy next to me may have depression and PTSD, and the guy next to him may have sleep nightmares, and yes, we're all suffering from something, but we're suffering together, and it forms a fellowship, right? The bond between us that we take from the tailgate to the game, after the game to the next bingo game that we host, the next fundraiser we host, and that's really what we want out of our organization, is that bond and that fellowship that is going to follow that veteran and his family or her family around, hopefully for years to come.
Yeah, well, it's a known fact that community and being connected to people is an incredible benefit for any sort of mental health, and when you're connecting with people that you feel feel camaraderie with, something you have in common, because like you're saying, going the transition, and obviously this more than I do as a veteran, but the transition from military life to civilian life, there's like a sense, like a loss of tribe, and when you are back with your people and who your people are, there's that sense of tribe again and camaraderie, and there's safety in that. And I think that's something important for people who are living with post-traumatic stress, is to understand you're not crazy. Like, you're not crazy. And when you're around other people who are experiencing similar things, that can help you to feel and know that you're not crazy. And I'm experiencing things differently than you are, and maybe you're experiencing it differently. None of us are crazy. We're all having our own experiences, but we're in this thing together, and we're here to support each other. And it sounds like y'all have done a great job of providing a safe, the safest possible scenario to attend an event with 87,000 people. You've got,
that's exactly,
sometimes counselors, and you've got camaraderie of other fellow veterans. Like, all of that creates an environment of safety, which is so important.
Yeah, and that's really that environment, and that camaraderie is really what we strive for, because we know how dangerous it can be for a veteran to go into, or anybody, right, to go into a PTSD attack where you no longer know where you are. Your sight, your hearing, your senses take you back to a different time, a different place, a different event. And a lot of times it's another PTSD sufferer that will break you out of that, right? It's somebody who's been through trauma. It's somebody who knows what the experience feels like. And for those of us who have gone through CBT for PTSD, it's what are 3 things you can smell? What are 3 things you can see? What are 3 things you can feel? To walk yourself out of that. Well, sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes you need somebody to literally grab you and kind of shake you out of it, and recognize those signs before you go into that full meltdown.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes when I'm describing trauma to people and like just the effects in your brain, there's you're old enough to know about the toys we used to have, the Viewmaster. You click through the red thing. And so, the way I kind of describe it to people sometimes is when your brain clicks and you're not in control of that. Your brain's now in survival mode, and fight, flight, or freeze, whatever mode you're in. But it's like putting that Viewmaster up against your eyes, and like you're no longer seeing what's in front of you in this present reality, where you're actually safe and okay. You don't get to just believe that because your brain has triggered you into saying you're not here, you're somewhere else, and you're now looking through this Viewmaster and seeing things from a completely different lens, and feeling unsafe and feeling threatened. And so to have someone who understands that and recognizes that right there with you, who's a safe person who can like physically bring you back into the reality of where you are in this moment. I think that's huge.
Yeah, and one of the things that we like about the way, and little toot our own horn here, we bring the families out too, which is important. Whether the family is mom and dad, or brother or wife and kids, whatever the family looks like, it's important for our families to know, like, hey, your spouse, your veteran is not broken. This is not a unique situation that he or she is in because of something they did wrong or something that happened to them.
Yep.
It's a very common thing. It's for the VA, it's one of the most claimed disabilities in the Veteran Affairs system right now. PTSD is. Because the trauma can come from so many different ways. It doesn't have to be battle. It doesn't have to be, an IED blew up right next to me. There's so many things that can cause it. And it's good for the spouses to talk to each other and discuss it and be like, oh crap, so that's what happened the other night. I just thought that, he was zoned out or when he came to, he was just mad and shaking and angry, and they may not realize what they saw, because a lot of times as veterans, we don't talk to our family about these attacks that happen.
Sure.
We're veterans are martyrs. I hate to say it, but it's true. As a fully transitioned veteran, I meet veterans every single day that have never sought help from the VA. They've never sought help from a professional counselor, and they need it. But they're like, no, I'm strong. I'm a rock. I'm an island. Thank you, Simon and Garfunkel. I'm good.
Right. Mm-hmm.
When in reality, they're not. They just don't want to ask for the help. And that's what we use those tailgates for. It's to break them. It sounds bad, but it's to break them down a little bit, get behind their defenses.
Yep. Yeah. And the thing is, I tell people all the time that it's, you're not broken and need fixing, you're injured and need healing. And there's a very different thing there. And I know 100%, and, a message I like to preach all the time is that there's hope for healing, and you can absolutely heal from post-traumatic stress. It's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. And there's just different ways of looking at it that if you feel like there's something wrong with me and you feel like I'm broken, that's going to kind of force you into a silence and not seeking help, because, so just reframing it and being able to communicate that message, which sounds like y'all do a great job of just paying attention to like this, you're not broken, you're injured and you need healing, and we're here with you in that, and providing a safe place for you. It's wonderful what y'all are doing. I love it. So if someone wants to find you, Jay, where do they find Gameday for Heroes?
So the easiest thing is just go to our website, gamedayforheroes.org. You can sign up there to be, we do have a verification process for veterans. It's real simple. You can send us a snapshot of a VA card, ID card, your DD-214, anything like that. And then you get added to our list of veterans, our list of participants, which allows you at that point in time to either use our resources, right? The stuff that we do or the stuff that we refer, which you can find under the Veterans Resources tab on our website. Or it allows you to sign up for those game day tickets as well. So, and those are usually the first things that go up. And, just to kind of let the people that you work with and some of the people that are visiting your site know, most of our tickets are here in the Southeast. We work with LSU, we work with Troy, we work with Auburn, University of South Carolina, Clemson. We have a meeting next week with Georgia Tech, so we're hoping we open Georgia Tech up as well, because there's a great veterans presence there in Atlanta to work with them. And you don't have to use one of our resources to be available to get tickets. Any veteran, active duty, retired, guard, reserve, can just come enjoy a game, right? And just come enjoy that hospitality, that tailgate. And the fellowship and the bond that we try to create with our veterans. And likewise, you don't have to go to a game in order to use our resources. In fact, most of the people who fill out our form, we do have a secure form. If you would like to use one of our resources, that goes to a secure Outlook mailbox where only I can get in there and get the information out of it. That information gets verified, and we get direct permission from the veteran to push that information forward to one of our resources. And that's how we help them reach out. We really try to be a one-stop shop for that transition period for those members. And if they need 4 or 5 resources, great. We're going to do our best to hook them up with 4 or 5 resources. There's stuff that we do or whatever. But yeah, gamedayforheroes.org. We are also on Facebook. You can just search us up at Game Day for Heroes. Game Day is all one word, just like you see on my little box there. And if you want to reach out to me directly for any questions, it's Bybee at gamedayforheroes.org. So
Very cool. So one last question, and then if there's anything else you want to say, but is it all sporting events, or are there other events that tickets are available also?
We do only sporting events, and the only people that we cut agreements with are colleges and universities.
Okay.
And the reason we do that is because we get to get those hospitality tailgates in. It's, I mean, do you see people occasionally tailgating a Braves game? Yeah, you do, right? Or Falcons game. But in reality, I mean, nothing beats the college game day experience.
Yeah.
There's so many unique traditions. A lot of times we're able to get our veterans down on the field because we have those personal relationships with universities. We can get them out to be recognized for the work that they've done for our country. And it's a little bit different. It's a different field than some of the other veteran ticketing organizations out there. But we keep it small, and we keep it family on purpose, because it allows us to know our veterans. It allows us to get down and sit down and talk with them. And, and when I see Tracy Bush out somewhere, I'll pick on him for a minute. I'm like, hey, there's one of our guys. You know what I mean? Like, there he is. He's right there. I know him. I know him by first name because we spent so much time together. And he doesn't work with our organization. He's just one of the guys that is a member of the organization. So,
yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jay. So Jay Bybee, Game Day for Heroes, gamedayforheroes.org. Really appreciate you being with us, and all the work that y'all are doing is amazing. So thank you very much, and just really grateful for you.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Jay.